You are listening to the Eulogy podcast by none other than me, Diahanne Rhiney.
The Eulogy podcast by Diahanne Rhiney is brought to you by the Naked Truth Agency, one of the leading social causes and diversity agencies specializing in PR, influencers, talent and production. www.nakedtruth.agency.
Hi, it's me again, Dr. Diahanne Rhiney, and I have an amazing guest. Actually, we're friends, but well, I can say when we get into it, I even learned some stuff. So we have the lovely Jay Blades, and for those of you, and if you don't know, well, you need to be doing something about this. He is on the repair shop. Is it something for nothing? Nothing for something? What's
Money
it?
for nothing. Money for nothing.
There you go. Money for nothing. I love it. I just love it anyway. Even though I don't seem to get anything when I do stuff up anyway. But and we're going to speak about his new book, and it's called Making It. And I'm telling you, when you read this book, we know it. Anything is truly possible. And so, Jay, thank you for agreeing to come on my wonderful podcast called The Eulogy. And we'll get into why it's called Eulogy later. So How are you?
I'm very good. And I must say thank you for having me, because basically I know you've been very patient and you've been asking me, and I've just been busy. I haven't been avoiding you because I can't avoid you. We go way back. So it's a case of I'm going to do it. It's just finding the time to do it. And we've got the time now. So here we are.
Yes, here we are.
And I'm glad to know that you've read the book as well. Because the funny thing is, I've done some interviews and people, they're supposed to have read the book, but they ain't read the book. So when they're asking me questions, then I'm like, well, that's kind of in the book. It just felt wrong. But I know, as you said, you read the book.
Yes,
all right.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I read it back to front. So yes.
What did you think of it? Did you like it? First of all,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You know, I had to put a different hat on because I do know you.
Yeah.
But as I was reading it, what I loved about it was its authenticity.
Yeah.
Because when it spoke to me in Hackney. It spoke to me in Hackney. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm not from Hackney, but I know many Hackney man, and it spoke to me in Hackney. Yeah. So it was authentic straight away. And it was like you were talking to me. It was so bizarre because I was giggling and my partner was like, why the laugh? I said, it's so funny. It's funny. There's parts where I was like, oh my God, I got to get to the next chapter because I want to know what happened when the man then chased her down. Yeah. All of these kind of things. Yeah. There was little bits in it that I just thought, oh my God. I said, when you went under the car, well, we'll get into this. When you was under the car and not even breathing, like, because I know what that's like when I was living in New York and someone broke in, and I just thought my breathing was so loud that they'd find me. Yeah,
exactly.
I really read. I was like, oh my God, I know that feeling. But you're long. I was thinking, how did you get under that fan? Because I know you're a long man.
Yeah, I'm a 6'3" geezer, and it did work. They ran past me. I think their adrenaline was pumping. It was quite. That was a scary moment because basically, if they had captured me on that day, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you now. It would just be, I'll be another statistic, basically.
I think so because they were mad.
Yeah, they were a bit annoyed with me because my trait back in the day was, and anybody who gets to read the book, you'll probably understand that I have a kind of. I have a weakness, and the weakness is women, and it always got me into trouble. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's just it's that weakness. From the day I was born, I had that weak. I think it's part of my DNA. It must be part of my DNA.
Yeah, because funny, I'm going to ask you about that because yes, I do think you have a thing for the ladies. Yeah,
definitely.
But the ladies have been from your mom through to Maria, all the different elements in your life. As much as you love a lady, they've really formed who you are.
Yeah, and I think that's why the book is called Making It, because all of these women have shaped me. All of the experiences shaped me. Even the racism, the police, everything has shaped me to the point where it's got me to where I am now. And then there's still more that I'm going to be developing over the years. But it's kind of like when I reflect upon it, as I've gone through all of these experiences, and it hasn't, sometimes you can go for an experience and what it can do is it can actually leave you with a chip on your shoulder and you can walk around with that baggage. Now, there's a lot of people that left a lot of baggage with me. So the racist people who didn't like me, the police doing what they did at the times of the 80s. It's a case of I could have walked around with that in my rucksack. But the reality is, like, it allowed me to just develop, reflect upon it and develop me again, reflect and develop again. But I was probably one of my own worst enemies as well. It wasn't only people putting stuff onto me. It was me getting myself into some troublesome situations. And then also, I like pretty things. And when you see a pretty lady, I got a problem.
Oh dear, I do. I must admit, I did giggle. I remember when I met you I was actually, as I was reading it, I was like, I've known you over 30 years. Do you know that?
Yeah. It's since the early 90s, 90. Because I think I moved to Luton in 80, I think it was 89. Yeah, and 90 was the year. I swear it was just, I
couldn't believe it. It's only when as I was reading the book, I thought, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
My Aston's 33 this year. Do you know what I mean? You start working it backwards. And I was like,
you work it backwards.
Oh my God.
I knew you before Aston was born. You know what I mean? So if we go back, man, we go back.
Yeah. So, so tell me, what made you want to, considering, about your dyslexia, and I know you diagnosed quite late and all of that.
Yeah.
What made you, because I do think writing a book or even putting yourself out there, and even though I know you're out there on the TV, obviously, but this is out there. I think when people read this, they know all about you, Jay.
Yeah, they're going to know everything, because a lot of people, the sad state of affairs is, as I came to the TV world a bit later, I started in TV probably when I was 46. And then now I'm 51. So I've only been in it for about 5 years. But before that, I had a life. And that life, as far as I'm concerned, made me get to the position where I'm at in TV. So one of the biggest reasons why I decided to write the book is because I believe I'm put on this earth now, I recognize, to influence people I'm never going to meet. And that basically means everything I do is much bigger than myself. So it's not really about me. It's about how I move forward. And by moving forward, I need to move forward with an honesty and being quite frank. And the book is kind of like the full Monty. I've just stripped bare and bam, there you go. Because you got to think, I think with the Repair Shop, we got about 7 million people watching me on the show. And with a show like that, and people not necessarily knowing, this is the time to let them know, this is me. This is what I've been through. This is what how I dealt with stuff. This is how I messed up. And look what I've achieved at the end of it. Look what I've overcome and still continue to move forward. So hopefully it will inspire people to say, you know what? Yeah, I can make a change. It can be done. He's done it at such a late date, and he was messed up. I was not a good guy, plain and simple. So I just hope people read the book. I'll tell you the honest truth, I can't wait for people to give me the comments. Because I'm
going to comment. I'm going to comment. So let's start at the beginning. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about, because I found the relationship with your mum interesting. And with my professional hat on, all of us have baggage, all of us, and all of us have normally some sort of trauma. And it was obvious when I was reading your mum, there was obviously things that went on for her, which then reflected on you guys, especially obviously you.
Obviously me. I think the thing with the man that contributed towards my birth, he left a very bad taste in my mum's.
We're going to get into that because I just kept laughing every time I read that. Just everybody, sorry, disclaimer, but Jay calls his what's it? Man
who
MW to my birth. Yeah, the dad doesn't really have a name. It's just that.
Yeah, it's just I can't. Yeah, when I say the man who contributed towards my birth, for everybody who's listening, it's the man that most people will call father or dad. Because he wasn't around, I can't give him that label. There's only one man I called dad, and I started calling him dad when I was 46.
Yeah.
And he's the man that looked after me when I fell down at 45. So the man who contributed towards my birth, as most of you would call him, dad or father or whatever, I just call him dad because he ain't done nothing apart from that. All he's done is contributed towards my birth, and then he disappeared.
And you've been a carpenter, remember? Just remember
exactly.
that.
Yeah. He's a different kind of guy. But I think that when we talk about baggage, I think when he decided to contribute towards my birth with my mum and then taking her money and then leaving, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth because what you've got to remember is you have a direct memory of that person that's left. Now, me being the type of person I still am, I'm an introvert, an extreme introvert. And I keep myself to myself. And obviously, back in the 70s, no one knew about introvert, no one knew about dyslexia and all that kind of stuff. It was just, he's a quiet boy. And you go into any Caribbean house, everybody's loud. You've got to be the loudest to get your food, to get this, to get that. It's almost like, if you look at puppies, the fattest one is the one who's getting to the bowl first. You know, the one who's the loudest. And I was always the quietest. I was always Marga. So basically, I think the relationship between my mum, it was a mark of respect that I knew she was my mum. There wasn't much affection there. I was seen as, in my eyes, the way that I see it now with the older eyes, I see it as there was stuff that was going on for my mum at the time of the man who contributed towards my birth had left her in the lurch and had got her away from the family home of that kind of security. And then she's there with a child. And this child looks just like him. So really and truly, it's one of those things where, you know what? Like when she looks at this child of hers, you look like the man who's just left me and left me on the lurch. Like that ain't a good look. So I get it now with an older kind of mentality. But at the time, it was just the way it was. I used to go into my cousin's house. They used to get beats. We used to get beats. It was just a discipline thing. It was
just the way it is. Yeah.
I never saw nothing different. So even when I experienced racism for the first time, I never knew I was experiencing racism because I never experienced it. It's only when you get older and you start saying, well, hold on a minute. You got affection and you got this and you got that. Oh, okay. Then you start analyzing things. But really and truly, when you're growing up, I didn't even know I was poor. I just thought it was cool. I grew up in a council estate. Yeah, 3/4 trousers, expecting the floods. Everybody looked like that. It was just like, yeah, this is us. Let's go and have some fun.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on for my mum. Sorry.
There was a lot, and I just thought, even though you keep saying that you knew she loved you, though you always sort of knew she loved you, even though she wasn't the most affectionate of mums. But I thought it was really nice that you did say that ultimately you just knew that she loved you, which I think is really fundamental.
Because if you can't see it, you can't be it. So how my mum grew up and how parents were, I can explain it, how my mum's parents might have parented her, that affection that we take for granted nowadays, that we are talking so much about, that we want, and this openness, there wasn't that in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. There wasn't this kind of bring to the surface that kind of affection. People were struggling. There was a lot of stuff going on. And people had to deal with the day-to-day stuff, and they didn't have it where you can go around skipping in the park and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't that case. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then tell me a little bit more. Boy, when I read about Highbury Grove, I was like, that was a chapter that I think that changed you.
Yeah, big time. you got to think. I came from Hackney, a really beautiful upbringing. I remember there was one thing, and we didn't get a chance to put it in the book because it didn't really make sense with the story. But because what I wanted the book to get across is establish the Wrigley Road look. That's what I wanted everybody to understand. That every person growing up as a child, black child in the community, your mum, dad, someone give you that look, like, don't embarrass me in front of the people.
Yeah, I know that look.
Like, oh, damn, you know what I mean? And it's yeah. So when I grew up in Hackney, it was beautiful. And then I had a case where I grew up in Stoke Newington, Hackney, and Stamford Hill. And I used to go out with a girl called Tracy Powell. And I remember knocking up for her once. And there was a Jewish family that lived next door to her. And they had this beautiful plum tree. I mean, it was beautiful. And in Stamford Hill at the time, I think it's still the case now, there's a big community of Orthodox Jews. I mean,
it's still the same. Yeah, really.
They don't mingle. So I remember we used to pick these plums off the floor because some of them would drop, but they wouldn't bust. They would just be there. So you pick them up and brush it. Mum told us we were supposed to wash them, but no one's going home to wash the thing and then eat it. You just rub it and then eat it. So I remember I said to Tracy, I said, you know what? I'm going to ask this man if we can pick the plums off his tree. So I remember knocking on his door, and there was like 4 other people there. There was a couple of friends. I think one of her brothers was there. And I said, oh, excuse me, sir, can we get the plums off the top of your tree? And he's like, he looked at us and he just like, And I said, oh, we don't need to come through the house. We can go on the wall if that's okay. And he just shut the door. So I took that as a yes. So we go up on the wall and we're sitting there. And it was the most beautiful time I remember looking at 5 of us. We were just sitting on there. We're eating these plums, and they were the juicy ones because you just pick them off the tree. Yeah. Proper. So
and the juice.
The juice, we was covered plum juice all down our cheeks, down our chin, on the t-shirt, on the trousers. And I remember looking at everybody and our legs were just swinging, like we were just kicking our legs. And then, no word of a lie, I remember looking at this guy and he was looking through his kind of French door windows at us sitting on the wall. And he gave this look of a parent that was happy, but he wasn't our parent. He just gave this look of like, yeah, that's what I built that tree for. And that's what that tree's there for, is to have those kids sitting on that wall and eating them, because I don't eat the stuff. I could see there were just plums everywhere. But having that kind of childhood memory and having loads of different beautiful memories like that, then going to an environment where it changed me completely. It made me recognize that I wasn't accepted, recognize that I wasn't the same as everybody else, recognize that I had come into an environment that, first of all, I was very naive. I didn't know racism was racism. The names that they were calling me, I brought it back to my community and I called some of the elders that. And
I read, and I was like,
yeah.
Jay, I had to keep remembering this was a different time.
Completely different time. This was the late 70s, early 80s. And basically there was a different way of operating in schools. There was a stark contrast of growing up in Hackney, where you're there with the same type of people, not just black people, poor people, standard. And everybody mucked in together and just communicated in a particular way. I never came across that stuff. But then when you go to somewhere like Islington, which is slightly upmarket, there was black people in the school there. But it was almost as if it was part of the school's culture. There was the young people that were used to calling black people certain names. It just changed me, because I think when I found out I've got dyslexia when I was 30, I think I was 32.
It was early 30s, yeah.
Yeah, they'd done a report on me and they said that I have the reading ability of an 11-year-old. So that basically means I stopped learning at 11. And that's when I went to secondary school.
Yeah, that's what the trauma was. The trauma was
just
there.
Fighting all day, every day. That was it.
Yeah, I did laugh when I saw it. I just used to punch it. And I'm like, I do remember that, Jason. I do remember that.
Yeah, I was very hot-headed. I was very quick.
You know what I mean?
Like, I know I was too quick. Sometimes I wouldn't even let someone say something. Blah, blah. That was it. And then just go about my business. Knock them out and then go about my business. That was it. But I got me into a lot of trouble, because obviously when the person wakes up, you've made them look a little bit stupid, and they're going to want to come and get you back.
But also with all what just recently with the George Floyd, I thought about your book, and I actually was sad, and I tell you why. It's because I was after I read the book twice, so I had a good feeling on. And then when I got you hear about the verdict, I was like, isn't it a shame? Because everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, this is the start of change." I was thinking, I just read my mate's book, and nothing's really changed.
No.
And that's the bit what I think was quite sad, when I was reading, but that part was sad for me when I heard the verdict yesterday.
Yeah, the verdict for me, when I heard the verdict, it was kind of, it was on the news, and I always like to watch the 10 o'clock news, and then, but it made me feel good, but then it made me feel like, well, hold on a minute. And then it took me, normally I have a thought of the day just comes to me, but this one, the one I put up after the verdict, was it took me an hour to actually get it together. And it was basically talking about, it's cool to identify when someone's wrong, but that's the first step. And we need to take so many other steps. There's like a million steps we need to do. I think tomorrow is the mark of Stephen Lawrence Day that the government has allowed us to, or allowed the Lawrence family to have. And I was very fortunate to be part of that campaign that they're doing. But it's like, there is still things going on. There's a girl that is in prison. I think she's in prison in Wales, who's, I think she's been convicted of GBH, of defending herself against three racist people. Then you have the likes of the two sisters that were murdered, and the way the police were taking pictures and WhatsApp pictures or doing selfies with it. And that didn't get any press compared to the Sarah lady. So someone asked me today on another interview, asked me about the report that recently came out about there is no institutionalized racism. And I turned around and said, well, if there's no institutionalized racism, show me the institutions that are reflective of our society that we live in. And if those institutions are not reflective of our society, they will be classified as institutionalized racism, because they're not looking out for or creating the similar opportunities for people who have come over. So I said, if you look at the NHS, for instance, look at how many people on the top level are Black. And those are the people that came in. Look at the high proportionate rate of people who have caught COVID in the NHS. A lot of them are porters. And if you look at the demographics of who they are, then you look at the kind of overrepresentation of young Black people in the criminal justice system, in the exclusion system, in the mental health housing.
Yeah, the PRUs. When I've gone into the PRUs, it's just outrageous. I mean, you got to think, how much percent? With 3%, something like that?
Yeah, 3%, and you can have over like 60% within the criminal justice system. It's like, hold on a minute, something ain't right yet. So to me, things have got better because I'm fortunate enough to be on TV and fortunate enough to be on a BBC and a show that is a hit. But it's like, it's taken quite a long time for someone like me to get here. And if you look at the majority of Black people who are on TV, if you're not linked to comedy, sport or music, it's almost as if there is no other genre for you. I remember saying to someone, a TV exec, they had the meeting with me and they was like, oh, what shows do you want to do, Joe? What shows? I said, you know what I want to do? I want to do a game show. They're like, what? What do you want to do a game show for? I said, in the history of TV, I'm talking all of the stations, I've never seen a Black game show host on prime time. It's never happened.
Actually, I'm trying to think.
Think about it. And I'm not talking no cooking show. I'm not talking no cooking show like Ready Steady Cook.
Well, we know what you do. Well, we know your cooking show, and you didn't even do any research. It's terrible.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't cook. So that ain't it. But there's never been in the history of TV. There's never been a Black person doing a game show, a prime time one. And I said, if we really want to talk about diversity, let's look at across the board what opportunities other people have had and that other people have not had. And that's a prime opportunity to say, right, let's push someone up in there. You've given me that opportunity here with a prime time show and doing something that is normally, when you look at craft, when you look at any form of restoration, it's normally for white middle class people. It's not for Black people.
Very much so. But how do you feel, funny enough, you say about that? Because when I deal with media, I'm very very outspoken about the lack of representation. But like you said, not just that, it's about, I want to see Black people, people of colour, in places which I wouldn't normally see them. So for you, this Black 6'3" gold tooth man, and you're on a show which you would normally look at with the antique roadshow type thing, you know what I mean, in regards to why did they pick you? It's like, you know,
I think they picked me because of the way that I communicate to people. So very fortunately, and what I said to this interviewer, that the people that have made me is everybody that I've encountered over the years. What really made me to be able to be picked to be on a show like The Repair Shop or even Money for Nothing was my work in the community. When you're able to communicate to people on a load of different levels, especially doing community work, because you're speaking to Black, white, Chinese, Asian, you're speaking to authority figures, you're speaking to establishment, you're speaking to fundraisers, you're speaking to a wealth.
A wide ranging,
wide range. So what that does is it allows you to be a social chameleon. And when you're a social chameleon, that basically means you can go to any environment and you can speak to people, plain and simple. And all I've ever done when I'm on TV is just do that. I don't really, the only thing I do differently on TV is I don't swear as much. So I swear a lot in real life, but I don't swear on TV because it just, you can't do it. It's just not going to happen.
And you're on the BBC, love. You're on the BBC. So
I'm on the BBC, but I have to watch my P's and Q's. And also, I know my mum's watching. So if my mum and my two mums are watching, so they're old school Black ladies. They're like, no, don't say that word. Don't. You say certain words that I hear some of the young ones saying on some TV shows, and like, no. I couldn't get away with those words. Not. Yeah, I know I couldn't.
Yes, good. I'm good. Yeah, good. I think I'll have had words with them. So do you know what I mean?
I think that's why they picked me.
Do you think so? Well, I think, and also what I thought was interesting about the book is the relationship you had with your father, and then you kind of feeling guilty that you may or potentially started to go into that same cycle
pattern.
And I thought that was a good reflection on your part, but also a hard one.
I think over my years of what I've done, I've had counselling, I've done loads of analysing, and the beauty about working in the community, you are always over-analysing certain individuals, working with some extreme cases, whether it's social services or whether it's youth offending or even pupil referral units. You analyse these people, and if you don't analyse yourself, then you're doing yourself an injustice.
Agreed.
And a lot of the time when I was looking at the relationship I had, or the relationship I was mimicking of the man who contributed towards my birth, it was almost as if there was a point where I had to accept that half of me is him. So no matter if I don't like the guy, no matter if I don't know the guy, I'm going to act the same way like him, even if I've never met him. So I have some of the characteristics that he has. I have some of the characteristics of being attracted to women in exactly the same way he is. And it's because I've come from him. So for me to just totally deny, but the problem is, because I didn't have the opportunity to get to know him, I couldn't get to know the future me. So as you can't get to know the future you have to live the future you, and then work for those mistakes to then say, damn, I get it now. I'm just copying what he is. But if he was in my life and I could see what he had done, then it's a case of like, I don't want to be like that, because you can't see it. Well, you can't be it unless you see it, but you're going to be it when you can't see it.
Because
I'm just going to follow that pattern.
You just nothing
at all.
You didn't have anything to compare to.
The only person I could compare was Lloyd, and Lloyd had a very suave look about it.
When you write about it, isn't it? Wow, well, man, dapper.
Dapper. You could never. This man could step into a room, and you don't have to say nothing. You know, someone just commands respect by the way they look. Not pretty boy, but I mean dress. People look at him like, damn, my man come correct. And he come correct on every occasion. You could just be having breakfast. My man could step down in his pajamas and you're like, did my man sleep? Because them pajamas look too crisp. They don't look like they're creased. They've got a nice little crease there. The sleeves all done. Man had a little handkerchief in the pocket. I was like, stop it. You know what I'm saying? Come correct. So yeah, but that's the only example I had.
Do you have any contact with him? Because I want to know, because you sort of one day he just disappeared.
Yeah, just bam. But that's the thing. This is what the men have shown me in my life. Disappear. And that's probably the same kind of characteristics that I did. And I think I was chatting to someone the other day about this, and it's a lot to do with, I kind of came to terms with what the man who contributed towards my birth has done. And a lot of other, not a lot, a few others, Black men have done that in our kind of midst, not had so many children as my
because he's got a football team and some, isn't he?
He got enough. Man is like a rabbit. But one of the things I was saying to this journalist was basically, when you look at the effects of racism or even effects of slavery, when you had the slave master going in and sleeping with his property, and his property might have been married to someone who was another slave who was his property. When your wife has to then give birth to a child that is not yours, it's almost as if you kind of like, you are humiliated beyond the point of being humiliated. When people used to jump the broom back in the days, that was their wedding, that was them. So to them, it was like, this is my lady. But at the same time, your lady was the property of someone else. So when we look back at those effects of slavery and we bring it right up to date, sometimes the behavior of the slave master will be echoed or mimicked or copied again in our society. So where someone might have, like the man who contributed towards my birth, having these children and going around and just doing it, he was acting, in my eyes, like the slave master, not really taking that responsibility. He can just have this children or impregnate this woman and just leave it. Boom, he's gone back into the house. He can impregnate another one. Bam, he's gone back to the house. He can just do what he wants. So when you start looking at how sometimes we are affected either by the past, it's kind of, it's a weird thing when you start analyzing stuff. So I didn't know I was going to be like my father. I didn't want to be like him, but I ended up being like him. And then it's the case of when you look back as into what he didn't like about his father, he ended up being like him as well. So it's kind of history repeating. It's a cycle. You can't just stop it. Yeah.
So what do you, in regards to your children, and obviously one I know very well, but how do they, what is your relationship with them now, all of them?
The relationship I have with my children is based upon fun, and also it's almost as if I've always explained to them that I am that blanket that they need every now and again, that you need to either feel warm or you feel protected. That's what I'm there for. I've got two boys, and boys being boys, and they're going to be exactly like me. So they're going to act independent. They're going to act like they don't need no help. They're going to go off and do what they've got to do. That's my children. But at the same time, I have to be more, I have to have that blanket ready for them at any point. Whereas the man who contributed towards my birth just disappeared. Boom. So I never got him. The only time I remember seeing him was when I was about 5 years old, I think. And that was it. After that, I never saw him again until I was 20, I think 21, 22.
I remember that. Yeah. That's just, I just,
my children,
I don't understand that still. I still don't. And I can't imagine how that felt for you.
I tell you the truth, it didn't feel that bad. It's almost as if when I needed that man who contributed towards my birth, he wasn't there. But by the time he wanted to be either in my life or whatever, I had already formed. There was so many experiences that I had. I was already hard by then. It was like I probably needed him when I was 11, going into secondary school and dealing with all of that. When you have to grow up so quickly and you realize that you've gone into an environment where you don't know nothing about it, you're totally naive about it. And then it's like, oh, is that the way it's going to be? All right, let me box you. Let me box this one. Let me punch you. Let me do this. Let me do that. it's almost as if all of those punches I threw were putting an armor between me and community, love, whatever. It just allowed me to express myself in a very angry way at people who was being angry at me. But what you need in your environment at that time, especially a young black man, I think, is you need a male role model. You need someone that's going to actually get you to understand where that potential behavior can actually take you. Fortunate for me, it didn't end up in prison. But I think if you have someone elder who's going to explain it to you and get you to digest it, then it's cool. But sometimes you buck up with people who want to say, no, don't worry about boxing, and blah, blah, blah. They just chat and win, you know what I mean? And it's like, what? And that's what I was hearing at the time. So I got a bit of a reputation for myself in London, to the extent where I had a reputation where people wanted to come find me. Some of my friends wouldn't even go out to parties with me anymore, because they're like, no, I ain't got time for no fighting. I just want to find a girl and just settle down. But you, every time I go out with you, you're ready. We're running from something. You know what I mean? We box up someone and there's madness with you.
I thought you was all just chatting up someone as well. The last one, when you was at the party and chatting up the girl, and some of your lines. Oh my God, Jay, corny as hell. I don't know how you got away with it.
Neither do I. They were proper corny. But you remember, this is the 80s. The 80s, people weren't smooth with the internet. You know what I mean? It was just like, my lines were proper greasy. You could fry chips in my lines. You know what I mean? They were greasy. But that one where I was chatting up a girl and I just boxed some geezer down and just carried on chatting up the girl. And then a friend of mine saying, look, Jay, we need to go. And then I was like, yeah, hold on a minute. I said to her, look, here's my number. And she looked at me like, what are you talking about? You just boxed this geezer. All these guys are behind you ready to beat you up. And you're talking about, here's my number. No, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I was funny, different.
Was it Tracy Powell was the name, wasn't it? Of the first person who because she was a bit of a tomboy.
Yeah, Tracy was a tomboy.
But you two really connected on a level.
She set the benchmark, because I think after that it was Tracy was the very, very first one, and she because we were friends beforehand, and then we got together. But Tracy, if anybody knows Tracy, a lot of the people in Hackney will know Tracy Powell as DJ Fantasia. And DJ Fantasia, she weren't easy. She was a proper, she weren't easy. She had brothers, they weren't easy. But we was all cool. I was cool with her mum and that, and everything was cool. It was all cool. But I think we just grew apart, not in a bad way. Because I remember when I would see Tracy, I went to a couple of blues dances and I was with a girl. But I would see Tracy, and Tracy wouldn't business. She would hug me up like it was like we was together, and people were like, really? And even her boyfriend would be looking. I remember once I went to this park.
Only you just.
I know, she was with someone at the time, and it was a guy in a quite successful sound at the time, like quite a known artist, and I'm not going to mention his name. So I'm there, and I'm like, Jason, what you say? We said, good, come over to me and start hugging me up, and like proper hugging. Yeah, you can see a man at the back of the sound. He's like, hold on, what's going on there? Who's that hugging up my girl? You know what I mean? And I'm like, whoa. And I had to tell her, like, you need to go and speak to your man, because I feel he's going to come and do me something. You know what I mean? So like, she's like, don't worry about him, forget him. Like, how you doing, babes? Touching me up and everything. It's like, woo. She could have got me into a lot more trouble. Yeah, but Tracy's very good.
So where are you now? Like, because I know when I was reading the book. So
yes,
have you you in a relationship? Are you spending time on Jay?
Yeah. That one's a hard one, because I'm in a relationship, but I'm spending time on Jay, because one of the things that I've got now is I've got a career that is. I can explain it. I'm not saying the career comes first. What comes first is my children. And then it's the career, because at the moment I have an opportunity to create, for the first time in my family, some intergenerational wealth, which is basically wealth for my grandchildren's children. And that just means that I need to stay focused. I don't have a really long time within this TV world, but what I need to do is make sure that I make hay while the sun is shining and capitalize as much as I can. So like, not last year, the year before, I spent 22 days at my house throughout the whole year. Wow. And 7 of those was Christmas time. So you're talking, what, 15 days I spent. So I'm in a relationship, but it's hard. It's hard for both of us but luckily I stay in nice hotels and whatever. They can travel, they can come up and all that kind of stuff. But the work does take it out of me. I'm filming 6 days a week now. It's insane. It's a lot. So but sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on.
I know you want to get into it. Now go on, girl.
Yeah.
I can see you bubbling, ready to ask some questions.
You know what? I was thinking, some of us have this image of, I want to get into TV or whatever it is they want to do for themselves. But I always say most things come at a cost. And you just speaking there, time is very limited. So it comes at a cost, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
I think everything is worth it because you're leaving a legacy. And as I said before, I'm doing something that I'm trying to influence people I'm never going to meet. And the people I'm never going to meet, you got to think, for a long time, I've watched TV from the 70s, 80s and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I've never seen, and I'm not being big-headed, I've never seen anybody like me represented on TV.
The Eulogy podcast continues after the break. This podcast is brought to you by the Naked Truth Agency. We don't try to make your presence noticed. We make your absence felt. PR, talent, production. www.nakedtruth.agency.
I've never had it where, and I'm not knocking anybody who is represented on TV, but I've never had anybody who's real. And if you read the book, you understand, hold on a minute, this geezer, it could have gone left on so many occasions. But he's real. He's damn, I'm glad I didn't meet him them times. I'm glad I'm meeting him now. And when you get these kind of opportunities, what you have to do is don't let it get to your head in any way, shape, or form, but understand your responsibility to make it easier for someone else to transition over or someone else to come after you. It's almost as if I'm leaving these crumbs. I'm not the first and the last. You know what I mean? There's going to be other people, but I want people to have an understanding of Black people can be, have the social intelligence, you know what I mean? To just read people and to talk. Because when you look at how stereotypical that, let's say, some of the media have been in the past, it's like we're aggressive, we're over-sexualized, we can dance good, we can run fast, and that we're good at sports, blah, blah, blah. But no one turns around and says, hold on, no, he's good at craft. Oh, do you know what? That man was staying there and he was chatting to that person, he totally gets her, and he's showing emotion and he's crying. The other day I went into Waitrose, and I tell you the shocking thing is this: I've got a big woolly hat on, I got the glasses on, but I got a mask, I got my tracksuit. You can't recognize me. People come to me, you Jay Blades? Oh, I just want to say you're a lovely man. You're a lovely man. You're this and that. And I'm not knocking it, but let's say 10, 15 years ago, some of those people, some of those women, some of those men were crossing the road for me.
Yeah.
They would see me on the street and they would cross the road, hold on to the handbag. I remember once I was walking outside of KFC. I had my daughter in one hand, I had shopping in the other hand, and I was waiting for Jade. So I went in there and there was someone sitting in the car. And as soon as I went beside them, I didn't even know that I didn't even know the car was there. I knew the car was there after I heard all of the central locking just locked on. And I was like, wow, like really? I'm holding my baby, I've got shopping. How can I mug you? I can't do nothing. You know what I mean? You want me to drop my baby, drop my shopping, and then get in your car and steal your car? Like what? And it's weird now because you've got people wanting to take selfies when it's a total contrast. But I understand that for me, my role is to allow people to see us in a different light, especially the Black male, because sometimes we can be seen or have been seen over the years quite intimidating, quite aggressive. And don't get me wrong, I've been there. I've done all of that. If you read the book, you know the score. But it's a case where that doesn't get us very far. That gets us to fill up the mental institutions, the prisons, the exclusion places. It does all of that. You know what I mean? And we've fulfilled this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that is not to benefit us. It's only to benefit other people, where our music, well, not even our music, because I classify our music as reggae, which is very uplifting and talking about coming together and moving forward. But when you look at things like rap, and to a certain extent, some grime, it's degrading us. And that's the only ever form of music I hear that degrades each other. You know what I mean? In a certain way that's quite aggressive.
Why do you think that's the case, though? Because if you take from your book of where you started, and I've spoken to many and interviewed many artists, and they'll say, I'm just speaking about my life, like you're speaking about your life in a book form. They say, and I will sometimes say, but don't you take that responsibility as a role model seriously? Because unfortunately, words have power. And I'm not saying that means you pretend like what you are living isn't happening, but you have to put things in context, because you have got younger people listening. And I think you have to show some sense of responsibility for that.
And me personally, when I found my calling of doing community work, my responsibility is to give back. I understood why I was taking so much out of society. One, because of the way people were treated me, and I just reacted in the only way I knew how, the same way they taught me, which is anger, violence, and that was it. But my responsibility now is to give back, because when you give back to people, I had this the other day, and I keep saying to people, you got to give back with not looking to receive. So imagine there's a pond, and in a pond you throw this pebble, and the pebble throws out these ripples. So I'm the pebble. You throw me in this pond of young people, and then these ripples come out. So the ripples are the amount of young people I've come into contact with. And then every now and again, as this pond, the ripples go to the shore, and then they come back to the original source. And there's this pebble sitting in the pond, and it's looking up. And basically, I had a young girl called Diahanne from Little Mix who came to me, I think it was last year, and said that she wanted me to be part of this documentary she's doing on colorism. Ultimately, I was proud of her doing that, for one, because of the influence that she has, and two, challenging something along those kind of lines. I was in the documentary, but the story didn't work out and whatever. But what happened in the back of that is Diahanne then decides to start a charity, which is called the Black Fund. And basically what it does is then it's kind of like a modern day partner. So, for people who don't know partner, it's a saving scheme of how the Caribbean community saved up together and made sure that they could pay for weddings, birthdays, Christmas, and all that.
Houses.
Kind of stuff. How's everything. So she started this, and she wants me to be a trustee on it. And the amount of joy that gave me, because you're influencing people you're never going to meet. And also when I was doing the charity work, it was all about working myself out of a job. So to build up these young people to then become the new youth leaders. When someone has the kind of passion to take that responsibility and do something with it, I think that's brilliant. Now, there's a lot of people in our community who don't want to do that. And that's entirely up to them. And if they don't want to do it, not a problem. But for me, it's not all about just making money. It's about, what are you going to change with this narrative? You have a kind of, as you said, a responsibility. And some people don't take it as that. Some people say, no, I'm getting mine now. I'm getting what I deserve. It's all right, cool, do your thing. But the trail that you're leaving, for me, I can't leave that kind of trail. I have to leave something completely different. I want people to say, I want to do that. I want to do this, and go forward and help other people to become positive within your society. I'm not knocking people that are not doing what I'm doing, but I couldn't do what certain people do.
But you're nice. I'm quite vocal. I think I think certain people should be more responsible, and I do think I'm a big believer of passing the baton back down or on, because somebody did it for us. It might have been your parents, might have been a teacher, whoever it is for you. Someone's paved the way. So I just really, it's about, paying it forward. I'm a big believer of that. So I will be harsh. I've got friends who do very well, and I say to them, what are you actually doing for the next generation? So sometimes I do think it's about calling people out. That's just me.
No, that's cool. I couldn't really. I think for me, it's each to their own. If someone doesn't want to do something, and I think,
oh no, you can't make them.
No, one, you can't make them, but two, also, it's like, I'm a kind of believer in some people do stuff and you don't know they do stuff because they don't talk about it. But because of like the social media world that we're in now, if you're not, I remember seeing a video that Ashley Waters posted up, and I think it was after the George Floyd murder.
Yeah, and he was very emotional.
It was emotional because people were calling him out as if it's like, why are you saying something? Why aren't you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? And it's like, well, hold on a minute. You don't know what I've been through to then come and challenge me on what am I doing. You don't even know what I'm doing. But personally, this is the struggle I've been living all the time. So there's certain struggles that certain individuals have had to go through to get to the position that they've got to, but they're not going to talk about it. They're just going to hold it because they're dealing with that in their own way. That's their own private thing.
Yeah, and that's personal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's, for me, I just can't call anybody out. I would say that certain individuals could be more responsible in some of the actions that they take, but it's their life. And as I always say, and I think, no, my mum didn't say this. Someone told me this, and I can't remember who told me this. It might have been my second mum. But I think my second mum said to me, she goes to me, not everybody has been brought up in your house. And when she said that to me, I said, hold on a minute, let me think with that. And she goes, she said, you sit with it. And I said, wow, yeah, you're so right. Because see how you've been brought up in your house. Someone might have been brought up completely different. So to expect that someone will have the same values, the same beliefs, the same responsibility as you, who ain't been brought up in your house, ain't going to happen. Even if someone is black, don't mean that they are the same as you. No. Some people, some of the language I'm hearing, some of the youths them use on TV, I'm just like, ooh, I have to turn it over because I'm like, I don't want to hear them things there because I feel bad listening to that.
Because even me, like, even though I hear how young people even deal with some of their parents and their elders, different times for me, and I'm like, excuse me. And you know, I wasn't raised where you had to be seen and not heard. You know, I was lucky. We were able to give our opinions and stuff like that. But there's still a line you just never crossed.
Yeah, you don't cross it. You don't cross it. You don't cross it. It just doesn't happen.
If you could give me like 3 bits of key advice that you would give to your younger self or a young person listening to this, what would those be?
The advice I would give to a young person is different than what I would give to myself.
Oh, so so there you go, give yourself more work. So give me one for yourself and one for the young person listening.
Yeah. Well, the advice I would give myself is I would say just do what you're doing. Continue doing what you're doing because it's got me to here. So it's kind of, it's all right. Everything's going to be cool. And I think everything is cool. Let me touch some wood. Right. There it is. Yeah. But the advice for the young people of today's society, I would turn around and say, we are the most informed society that is out there ever. I would take as much information as you possibly can, but take information from people who you don't expect to get information from. Don't get information from your peers. Don't get information from your favorite artists or whatever. Don't follow that. Get information from someone you wouldn't even expect to get information from. Go to the library and ask a librarian a question, not related to books. Hear what that person says. Go to a traffic warden, and a traffic warden who's a different race from you, and ask them a question. Ask them an opinion. The thing that has happened for me, which is so beautiful, is that I've been around so many different people that it's helped me shape who I am. It's allowed me to just take on different opinions. And when you take on different opinions and listen to people, it's like, wow. Whereas if you stay in the same neighborhood, if you talk with like-minded people, they've got the same opinion as you, you ain't gonna go nowhere. I know there's some brilliant ways that some great speakers that have put it in a certain way, and I can't remember what that one is. There's one where it's like, if you sit down with small-minded people, you're only going to end up small-minded.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So it's, for me, it's broaden your horizon. Young people nowadays, you can ask anybody a question. I mean, anybody. That's what I would do. Ask as many people a question as you possibly can about everything.
It's so funny you say that, because I was having a conversation the other day. I was saying that I wish, especially in this country, it's not as much like than in America, that young people should go to debating forums because you learn how to articulate yourself. You learn to respect somebody else's opinion, even if you don't agree with it. And you can argue from a place of articulation, being articulate in what you're saying. Because a lot of the times I find that people get frustrated. They're trying to say something. They're not quite sure. They're not have a broad sense of stuff. And so they become very narrow in stuff, in their reasonings. But whether it's you read or whatever it is that is for you, where you can learn different things, different cultures, different opinions, it gives you a better, broader sense, I think, of the world as a whole.
Yeah, 110%, because not everybody's going to be fortunate enough to go and travel the world and speak to different people. But you can speak to different people, especially in this country. You can speak to just people that are there. And I know it's probably hard to do now because of COVID and what have you, but when we're allowed out to play, speaking to the likes of a traffic warden who might come from another country, you know what I mean? Speaking to different people, you get that kind of knowledge of like, wow, I'm very fortunate to be.
Because Jay did that, didn't it? Jay did that for you from Turkey.
Yeah, she took me to Turkey and just exposed me to a different world. But I tell you what really did it for me was the philosophy. So when I went to philosophy,
I saw that you're debating stuff. Yeah, you blowed your mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
took me to another level because it told me the power of a discussion, the power of an argument. But it was more, it was power of discussion, but also the power of understanding. Like philosophy will say, what do you think that is? And you say, it's a chair. And it says, well, no, it's not a chair. It's just timber that's stuck together, etc., etc. And you're like, shit, man. Yeah, when you look at it, really, that is what it is. It's a form of a chair. So it's not the chair. There is a chair that someone has an idea of, but that's not a chair because you have all different shapes of chairs. So it just allows you to break things down, but you can get that through talking to people as well. Yeah.
So what is next for Jay? What is next for you, Jay?
Well, the next thing for me is doing loads of doing more TV stuff. I'm filming a show at the moment called Jay's Workshop. I want to do mainly shows that are based around community and bringing community together. Okay. So going back to my kind of grassroots of helping people. So this show called Jay's Workshop is, I've got about 3 experts that are makers out there in the real world, and they come work in Jay's Workshop, and they have 2 apprentices each. So I've got 6 apprentices, and they're not established. They're not really that great. They can hold a saw and what have you, but it's all about teaching these young people and older people as well how to do the craft. So what I then do is I go out into the community. I find local heroes that need to be celebrated, and we need to make something from. People can nominate someone, but I would normally get a tip off and be told, like, oh, there's someone down there. Like at the moment, we're making for we'll make for a care home. We've got youth leaders. We've got people. We've got loads of people, and then I set the team a task to make an item for that person, and we surprise them with it, just for recognition of what they're doing in our society.
Yeah, because I must admit, when I go on to J & Co, I see some very lovely pieces, very lovely pieces. I'm like...
and lovely prices.
Yeah, lovely prices, but very lovely pieces. And I just think, because you have got your kind of trademark, haven't you? Because, the colours and the 3 legs, one colour, 1 leg, one different colour, and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, it just shows how you've just developed, and that your own brand has just come to be, hasn't it, really?
Well, that was a purpose thing. You have to, I think, with Jade, what we did with Out of the Dark, I didn't believe Out of the Dark was going to be successful.
I know, I
didn't think anybody was going to buy secondhand furniture. I'm like, no one's going to buy it. And when someone bought it, it was like, wow. And then when everything fell down for me, when I broke down about 6 years ago now, to set up on my own, I knew the kind of characteristics of what I had to do. You have to build a brand. You have to have an identity that is, to some extent, so iconic that people can identify without you saying, this is me who did that. They would just know, oh, that's that person. And that's what I was doing with Jay. Well, that's what I am doing with J & Co. And then the new website's coming up with that. And
Woo!
We're going to the next level. Yeah, we're going next level.
Next level, everyone. You're gonna have to check this out. And I know one of the probably, I suppose, the darker times for you, and with a lot around mental health and stuff. And you have been, I would say, your darkest moment, I would say, from reading the book. How do you feel now? And when you reflect on that period, because I know there were some key people, like I call them your mum, number two, and your dad. Well, your dad. The other one is
mum number two, and my dad, my first dad. I call
definitely.
it. The first man I ever called dad.
And there's lots of young people, who get to a place where, unfortunately, I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, I had to deal with a young boy who took his life, and I'm surrounded by so much around the mental health issues. For you, how do you think you got to that place in the first place? Is it that you didn't talk? What was it?
That was it. I didn't talk. And I think I was in a kind of a different aspect than most, because basically I was a community leader and doing a number of things in the community. So I was a strength for many. So dealing with families, dealing with young people, dealing with authority figures. I was this kind of pillar of strength, like, oh, he's the man, go and speak to Jay, so on and so forth. But when you are supporting the people that need supporting, who supports you? Now, you can go to counselling, you can offload, but there comes a point where you're going to hit crisis mode. And when you hit crisis moment, you need to be able to just speak. But because I was so proud and I was going to say strong, but I was going to say I was proud and I was weak, is the way it is. Rather than proud and strong. I was quite weak, because to be strong, you have to be able to speak to people. You have to be able to talk and actually air your opinion on what's going on. And I went into a zone where it was just simply, it's the weirdest thing to explain to people, but if you can't see yourself in tomorrow, you just enter a void. So when you can't see yourself in tomorrow, what I mean by that is most people say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. When I get up, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to have a bath, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. When you can't see what you're going to do tomorrow, when you can't anticipate yourself being part of tomorrow, you go into a world that, personally, someone asked me about it the other day and said, how did it feel? I said, you know what? There was just a numbness. I didn't really exist. It was like I was the walking dead. I couldn't even tell you how I felt about it. I can't tell you how it kind of, the despair or anything like that. I didn't even know. That was just numb. And when you're numb, you can't, you
don't feel anything.
Nothing at all. You don't even know you're alive, to tell the truth. It was like, you can go, when sometimes someone's daydreaming and you go like that. I didn't wake up. I mean, you go like that, and I'm still there. It was just like, shit. The only time I woke up was twice, actually. Once when I think it's a psychiatric nurse saying, oh, we don't have to section him.
Now you kind of, I sort of, when you
I'm like, what? Who are you sectioning? Like, what? Where did that come from? Like, they're interviewing me and I'm just going through autopilot. And then when I cried in Gerald's car, and that's when I kind of woke up. But how I got there was just being weak and not being able to speak to people. That was basically it. Yeah.
So you need really to talk. Give that message to talk. Men,
Us men need to talk. And I think it's one of the things that, and hence why I did the book, because for me, it's like, that's the ultimate way of talking. Saying, look, this is me. It's like doing a full Monty with this book. I'm opening up and I'm willing to talk to anybody about the darkest moments. I'm willing to talk about the crazy moments when I was younger. I'm willing to talk about the police brutality. I'm willing to talk about racism. I'm willing to talk about those uncomfortable conversations that I think, as I said, my motto is to influence people I'm never going to meet. So if I can influence someone by being on a talk show, either in a newspaper, a magazine, whatever, podcast, you name it, if I can talk to men and say, look, well, they can listen to what I'm saying, bam, I'm probably one of the rudest boys from back in the day. This boy is talking now. He's expressing that, bam, I was low. And this is what's done for me. That's got to support someone. So
yeah, especially black men, because we know they have an additional layer, I would say.
Yeah, an additional layer. Yeah, definitely. And a layer that sometimes could be said that you're putting on this facade. There is this facade that goes on, and really and truly we don't need to. We do have emotions, and you're not showing your vulnerability. You are showing your vulnerability, but by showing your vulnerability, you're showing your strength. Because at the end of the day, you can live with having your heart on your sleeve and nothing happens to you. It's almost as if you get a superpower. You know what I mean? Like no one can trouble you. Whereas when someone is getting close to your weakness, getting close to that, what are you talking about? They flare up and you move away from that. But people can come to me. People can call me whatever. Like some people say to me now, "Oh, what does that Jay do? What's he doing on telly? He don't do nothing. He's just there." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he don't do nothing. I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And then sometimes I say to people, "Would you say the same thing to Nick Knowles? Because I'm doing the same role as what he does in DIY.
Exactly.
So, and then it could just stop people in their tracks. Like, oh, no, I didn't mean that. I said, well, what do you mean? Because I'm a presenter. That's what I do now. I present. I can make the stuff, but because I'm kind of better at presenting, that's what they've got me in. No one busts Nick Knowles' balls. Yeah, no one busts other people's balls. Yeah, it's like, come on, man. You don't have a go at the coach because he's not playing football. I mean, he's the coach. He's over there. Let him do what he's doing. I've got a role I've got to fulfill.
And that's your role. Presenting and communicating, because you absolutely are good at that.
Thank you. But that's community work that's done that. That's what's done that, community work. And I think with this book, as I said, it's going to uncover a lot of uncomfortable conversations. It's going to get people are going to want to talk to me about certain aspects of the book and just be like, oh. And the thing I would love people to do is this: talk to me about it rather than make up your own opinion. Yes, you've got the book there, but I can fill you in with the details. I can make sure that you understand where I'm moving to now. Because the problem that some people do is they would take, I call it the Twitter information. So they take 140 characters and they believe they can write a Bible on you. And it's like, well, what are you talking about? No, you don't know the fabric. That's all I could squeeze in there. Let me talk to you. No. I know everything about your life now. Boom, I'm gone with it. But it's like, all right, cool. So, but I'm willing to talk.
So as I wrap up, let me ask you one. What's Jay's superpower?
Yeah, that's easy. My superpower is the community. Anybody I come into contact with, it's the community. Because the community feeds me. And I'm talking from way back over yonder, right up to this day. Everybody I come into contact with teaches me something. That's my superpower. I'm like a sponge walking around in this world right about now. And I take on negativity because I know, oh, I ain't going to touch that again. Yeah, I ain't going back there with that person. Positivity, wow, you're going to develop me. All right, let me follow you some more. Let me follow you. And I'm just learning. So it's community is my strongest power, my superpower.
So let me ask you a few little questions about it. What's your favorite color?
Favorite colors? I've got too many. I've got blue.
No, one. You're going to pick one.
One. Oh, I got to pick one. Blue. Blue.
Your favorite meal, even though I had an idea from the book. What's your favorite meal?
Favorite meal, bully beef and rice. For some people who don't know what bully beef is, it's corned beef and rice.
Oh, when I saw that, I couldn't stop laughing because back in the day it was seen as poor people food. Do you remember?
It's poor people food. It's poor because it's out of a can. But I'm telling you, when you get black people cook up bully beef, you're like, what? That's out of a can. What? That tastes organic. You understand?
Well, me, he's a vegetarian, but I get it. Right. What is your go-to? What happened to you?
Oh, that's it. No, the battery is going low. No, that's it. Cool. What is your go-to track when you're feeling down? Oh, hold on. Let me just get this thing because that's a good question. That's a really good question. Oh, go-to track. See, and you want one track as well.
Yes, please.
One track, go-to. I'm feeling down. All right, I think it has to be. Let's just try and do this. How am I going to? hold it up like that, and hold this thing up.
Come on, Mr. Creative.
Oh, trust this computer. Trust, yeah. 19707. Cool. Okay, you still there? You still there? Yeah.
I am. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Go a little bit on the piss. My go-to track. I've got a number of them, but the one that's been helping me out I would say this month, it's been a nice one, is Barry White, Early Years.
Oh, okay.
It's a rare groove track. This the words in that at the beginning are beautiful. And then I've got, that's it. Early Years, Barry White. There's too many tracks.
And if you wanted to serenade a lady, what would be that track that you put on to say, yes, this is the one?
It's gonna be the one. It's got to be Beres Hammond. Tempted to Touch.
Oh, that is a tune.
Yeah, I love Beres Hammond. Tempted to Touch. Yeah, that's me. So I'm a Barry Sauce. It's a little Sanchez. If you want to, Sanchez. Woo! There was one. Oh, what was it called? I think it's called. Is it Brown Eyes? Not Brown Eyes. No, there was something. Pillow. Something to do with the pillow. Hold on.
No, not Put Your Head on My Pillow.
No, there's another one. There's another one. Something to do with pillow. I was playing it the other day, and I was like, "What?" There's some tunes. There's a couple of DJs I can't listen to anymore because they do some tunes where it will get me getting out my little black book, and I don't need to get into any more trouble. You know, when you start listening to some music and you're like, hold on a minute, I need someone beside me. I can't. I can't do them. I can't do them things because them DJs, they kill me with it sometimes. But yeah, Tempted to Touch and Barry White. Yeah, man.
And I know you love eggs. So is it boiled, poached, fried, scrambled?
Well, it depends. If I've got time,
depends.
I like. I must say boiled. I have a lot of boiled eggs.
Do you?
Probably have two almost every day with spinach. Yeah, and avocado. Yeah.
With avocado. You smashed avocado.
But see, you say it like that, but listen. I was eating avocado in the 70s, that's a stable thing for us as people. Like people now, like, oh, we have an avocado, darling. It's like, no. I was avocado.
Because I went there, somebody said to me, do you want to smashed avocado on sourdough bread, with a poached egg with some hollandaise sauce?
Yeah. Whereas it's been called avocado recently, whereas I know it's pear. You want some pear, but it's not pear. Like what you would a fruit pear, it's avocado.
Yeah, I know.
And it's big king, like big.
Yeah, the proper one. I like the one from the proper Caribbean shop. The big one. They've got more taste, pear. Haven't they? Yeah, proper pear.
It's a proper pear. Proper.
So the reason why I started this podcast, and so I'm gonna to finish with this for you, is I always thought about, what would my eulogy be? And that was all based on my mum dying suddenly. And a week before she died, we had just happened to be speaking about, God, if you were to go tomorrow, what do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? What would you want your eulogy to say? And I always talk about, which is a true story about the guy who invented the atomic bomb, who they thought had died, he hadn't. And he read his eulogy.
Wow.
And it was not nice. And he was so upset by it, Jay, that he then did the Nobel Peace Prize. It's him who invented, it's the same person. And he wanted to change what people would remember him by. What would be yours? Well, if you could give me a line of what you'd want people to, what do you want to be remembered for?
That's a really good question. I think I want to be remembered. I just want to be remembered as a community worker, really and truly. Like, if I can go through this TV stuff and try to somehow weave the community into it. I think on my one is that here lies, a community worker. Here lies the community worker Jay Blades. Bam. That would be me. Like, that would be it. I just classify as a community worker. That's it. I wouldn't want anything else, because I think a lot of the stuff that I'm going to do now, that I'm doing now, I won't see the benefits of it. The benefit will come for other people. And that's a true community worker. You do stuff knowing that you're the pebble at the bottom of the water, and you might see the ripples come back to you, but really and truly, at least you've thrown yourself into the pool to then let those ripples go out. That's basically it. That's me.
Oh, Jay, it's been a pleasure. And I mean, I take anybody, please, making it truly is a book that will make you look at just life and what's possible. That's what I loved about it. It was showing you that it's possible. You can go through some hell and high water, but there's still that possibility. And you know what else for it is that people, and like you said, the people you sometimes least expect, come round to help. Because Gerald, is that Gerald?
Yeah, Gerald.
He was a stranger, really. When he came,
he was a stranger.
He was a stranger. But guess what? It was him who changed that chapter.
Yeah, he changed the perception of me looking at men in a particular way and opening up to men. He made it where I would just say stuff now. And I remember one time I was at Gerald's house and I drove away. And then I came back the next day and I said to him and his missus, I said, you know what? You lot made me feel really good yesterday. I was going to turn back, but I know you was going to bed. But I wanted to say to you that you boosted my spirit to a point where I didn't know it was possible to get boosted anymore. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for loving me. And it was like, they look at me like, oh, what happened to this guy? But they're used to me now. They're used to it. Like, Jay would just say some shit. And just let him say it. Just let him say what he's saying. And because he just talks it. If he's feeling something, he's going to say it. So yeah, he's a special guy, man. I think everybody I've met is special. I just didn't know they were special because I was only concerned with myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even that police officer, superintendent, can't remember his name now.
Dave McWhorter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually loved reading about her. And that's it. I see here. Yeah. And I thought, wow, see, it comes from the least expected places, isn't it?
Yeah. It's you never know where your sign's going to come from. And as you don't know where your sign's going to come from, you've always got to leave yourself open. And from you leave yourself open, yes, it might feel vulnerable, but at the same time, you're going to get so much back. It's just like shit. And excuse the French for swearing again, but I think one of the things that I look at now, 5 years ago, or was it 6 years ago, man like me was sleeping in a car. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't for the support and the love from other people, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I wouldn't be here. I would probably be sectioned in a mental institution or something. And
well, you may not have even been here, because if those bridges didn't have them,
exactly.
When you actually think about it,
there's so much. I'm so thankful for everything now. That's why I say my kind of utility, my tombstone. There you go. And my tombstone will basically say, here lies Jay Blades, community worker, because all of the community have made me, and they've got me to where I am now. From the get-go. I mean, right from when I was born. Even those racist people showed me that you don't need to be like that. You know what I mean? Those are people who don't really understand people or fearful of the unknown. They listen to the stereotypes. They kind of manifest it and then react in a way when they see someone of a different color. It's like, really and truly, you showed me, you taught me something great. You taught me how not to be to people. And that's what I got to go forth and do. If you can be like that to someone, wow, I can't do that shit. That's not nice. That's not nice at all. You know what I mean? And sorry, Mum, I know you're probably going to be listening to this. I'm swearing now. I swore 4 times. And every time I'm swearing, I can hear you. I can see your eyes looking at me. Yeah.
Don't worry, we're going to get him a jar. Yeah. And my charity needs some money, so we're going to get a jar. And every time he swears, I'm going to get him put a tenner in there or something like that, and then I'm sure our charity would be very happy. So Jay, on that note, I'd want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure. And you know what? I want to really thank you for sharing your story, because it is stories like yours what make you think and realize about life. Sometimes it appreciates that, you know what, I'm not having that bad a time actually, you know. You know, and those who are having a bad time, there are some people going through some tough things. Yeah. But like I said, it's possible. It is possible. And that there are still good people in the world. There are still some really good people in the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to wish you so much luck. I know this is going to be, anyway, everybody out there, the Metro is a bestseller, yeah? But I'm telling you won't put it down. I read this in a few, I literally could not put it down. And I'm telling you, I know him. And even I still was like, what is going to happen next? Lord, who him cuss, who him buck down, which woman he's walked out on.
Which woman is he with? Yeah, who's he walked out on now? You know what I mean? It's like this, and all of that.
But ultimately, it's authentic, and that's for me is a big thing. It's about being authentic. Yeah,
it's authentic and honest. It's real. You ain't getting no realer than that, man. Yeah, that's real.
So we'll have him back. You know, when he's turn even bigger star, we'll have him back again to reflect to reflect on where he is now. Definitely. And I'd say, for me and the community, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. All right then, Jay. Have a good evening.
Right. You too.
Bye.
The Eulogy podcast is presented and produced by Naked Truth Production. Executive producer, Diahanne Rhiney. Editorial assistants, Laura Hunt and Daniela Mason. Producer, Emily Farrell. Digital marketing, Lauren Colburn and Emily Farrell. Theme music, written and produced by Gary Grant. Special thanks to Nicole Alsey, Ahaji Kamara, Kevin Williams, Evadne Campbell, Vinter Morgan. In memory of Caroline Rhiney, sunrise 30/06/1952, sunset 24/01/2010. Thank you for listening to the Eulogy podcast by Diahanne Rhiney.